effect on the Mariners supporters. Blows his whistle. George Moncur steps up and scores! Bottom corner of the net. The goalkeeper was very close, and it's John. He lets in a low cross, and that's been turned in. And Leyton Orient are back on level terms. Here comes to James. He shoots. Oh, and a goal from Tom James. That was a volley, and that was. It's a low cross. It's an inviting cross, and it's been turned in by Theo Archibald, and he celebrates in front of the travelling faithful.
Good afternoon and welcome to Orient Live here in the E10 studio. The O's are on the road again and they're looking to build on the last couple of 3 points with another 3 points today. And it's Michael Flynn's Walsall that stand in the way, and the O's are out there at the Poundland Bestcott Stadium, and I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by two Orient legends, but one Orient legend, Jabba Ibrahim, and football journalist Brendan Pitcher. You're still a legend in my eyes, Brendan, but it's a big game today on the road and an opportunity to get another 3 points, and it's not quite a winning run just yet, but we're starting one.
Yeah, the difference in mood around the club from this time last week is completely changed. We're on the up again because of results elsewhere and our results ourselves, and it feels like the confidence back, and that's what it felt like. It felt like a blip. It was more down to confidence more than anything. We know how good this side is, and they were just struggling a little bit, not doing the easy things and making things hard for themselves. But they're back on that winning run now. Tough game today. Walsall will be a tough test, but at least we go into it now with a bit of confidence inside us.
A tough game on Tuesday night in terms of conditions and the distance, and we came through that. Another clean sheet. It's probably going to be a slightly trickier test in Walsall today. They're going for the playoffs.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's going to be a different test, but in terms of the quality that Walsall will possess, I think it'll be tricky. Every man has to be kind of on it today to get a positive result, because Walsall have made some good signings in the January transfer window, and they've got some real players that know what this league's about. They're very good at this league, at this level, and we need to be at it today to get a good result.
Well, I'm sure Richie will have the O's up and ready for this afternoon's game. So before we go any further this afternoon, let's hear his thoughts ahead of the game.
Gaffer, straight back in touch in this weekend, a trip to Walsall. Firstly, reflecting on Tuesday night's performance, you must have been really happy with some of the football your team played as well.
Yeah, I think at the time, obviously, when you're in the middle of wanting to win the game, sometimes you don't appreciate some of the stuff we played, and obviously when we've watched it back and we've gone through a debrief with the players, some of the football was excellent on what was a difficult service. So I'm really pleased. A lot of players have begun to get a lot of confidence back now. So we're going to a tough away game against a team that has improved a lot since we last played them. Got a lot of players in, a lot of players returning from injuries. So it'll be a tough test for us.
One of those teams looking to get into playoffs, obviously Walsall, under Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn, a very good manager at this level and knows what it takes to get to the playoffs. Expecting a tough game, I know them.
Tough game. I was expecting them to be, they got to a stage where they're a couple of games in hand and he was on a really, really good run. But then the FA Cup comes and, they play Leicester and you've got a hard game against them. They stay in the game till very, very late. I then watched them on a Tuesday where Salford looked a bit tired, looked a bit leggy. And then obviously they got a point, which is a good point away at Northampton on Saturday. So if you could have got 2 wins in them games, it would have put them right in the mix. They're still in the mix anyway. Flynn is an experienced manager. I've probably gone a similar path as Flynn in terms of we played together when we was younger, similar age, and he went into management at the same time. So I've always been aware of his career. Someone I've got a lot of time for. He's a good lad. He's turned out around a fortune, which was a difficult start for him with the amount of injuries he's had. So he's put the club in a decent position at the moment. So we need to be aware of a big, strong, physical team, and first and foremost, we need to match that.
Brought some reinforcements in, namely Jamil Matt and Matty Stevens up top. We know those two pose a real danger. Are they danger men, I guess?
Well, I think they both played together at Forest Green last year when they got promoted. So Stevens had a long injury, which he's just coming back from, and Jamel Matty is what he is. He's a big physical presence, and if you allow him to bring balls down or to compete in the air, and you're not physical against him, then he can cause you problems. So you've also got the club's well aware of Connor Wilkinson, but you've got some good players. First and foremost, physically you have to match them. So we won't be working on matching them physical. We're just putting ideas in the players' head to get in the right areas and fill the right zones.
So, as Richie says, a big physical battle for the O's today, and he's opted for a side with only one change from Tuesday night's victory over Crewe Alexandra, and that is Aaron Drynan coming in for Charlie Kelman. But let's take a look and remind ourselves of how the O's are lining up in full. And in goal, after keeping his 19th clean sheet of the season, is Lawrence Vigouroux, and it's an unchanged back four of Tom James, Omar Beckles, Ed Turns and Jaden Sweeney. We've got in the midfield Theo Archibald, George Moncur, Idris El Mazouni and Kieran Sadlier, and leading the line, that one change is Aaron Drynan. And on the bench for the O's, Reece Byrne, Shadow G, Adam Thompson, Verel Satiriou, Rob Lydon, Darren Prattley and Charlie Kelman. So that is how the O's are lining up in full this afternoon. And Brendan, I mean, are you surprised that that one changed?
Not massively. I think against Wimbledon in particular for the last 20 minutes, I think that's the best I've seen Aaron Drynan all season. He looked full of energy, fit again. I think that's a massive thing. I think we haven't seen the best of Aaron Drynan this season, and I think probably because of the injury he picked up in pre-season meant he didn't have a full pre-season. So his injury might have been a blessing in disguise in terms of they've given him a bit of extra time, get back up to speed, and he looks ready and raring to go. I think Charlie Kelman, it's one of his first full seasons in professional football. So for him, he's played a ridiculous amount of games week in, week out in that role up front where he has to do so much work. Might be good for him just to have a little rest out there today and give Drynan a chance to come in and prove his point.
From Aaron's perspective, it has been tough as a striker yourself. It's, as Brendan says, no pre-season. It's neither of them have really. Well, it's been one or the other of them throughout the whole season, really, and neither of them have really hit the ground running. It must be strange in a season as a striker when no one's really scoring and you haven't got much competition. What do you think the feeling is between those two?
I think they're both itching to get going. You know, they're looking at each other to say, right, I'm gonna take it. You're gonna take it. Who's gonna do it? No one's really capitalised on that. Definitely missing the pre-season doesn't help because everyone knows pre-season is massive in terms of your output in the season. So that would have played a factor. And you know, you can look at it and say, well, they haven't scored, but the team's actually done really well the same way, and others have scored and filled in that mantle. But you know, as a striker, you want to score, especially when the season's going well and the team's going well. You want to be, well, I've scored 15 goals, 20 goals this season, and you kind of haven't. So it would be weighing on their mind, but there's still enough time in the season to try and get into double figures and get on a decent run. And hopefully he takes his chance and has a go.
I've got to give Kelman some credit as well, of course, for his assist on Tuesday night. It was a smart layoff to Ed Turns, but he could have spun and hit it on the half turn, but he didn't, and we scored. So you know, it's, as you say, that they're still part of this setup and still part of the system, and it's working. Yeah,
100%. Because you know, obviously strikers, a lot of the time you're judged on goals, especially if your team ain't playing well. You're judged. When the team is going well, you don't really look as strikers' goals don't really tally up the same way, sort of thing. It can be lost in the team's performance, and I think they've added something to the team and helped other players play well this season. And again, on Tuesday, you know, that layoff, you know, don't underestimate that layoff because it was the right way to pass. He was very composed with his touch. There's people around him, laid it off, which allowed Turns to have a one-shot finish into the goal. So I mean, they've served the purpose and done really well. It'd just be nice just for your numbers to get those goals in.
And you know, the strikers need to have chances created to be able to put them away, and it's been looking like in recent games with the addition of Sadlier and Moncur coming back firing that creativity hopefully is going to be a little bit more apparent.
Yeah, definitely. I think Sadlier is a player that we've seen in flashes a little bit in his first two performances for the club, but on Tuesday night I thought had his best game by far, and I think he's a League One quality player that we did really well to bring in, to be honest. I think he could be playing at a high level. He has played at a high level for most of his career, and we're getting the best out of him now. And also what he does down that left-hand side, which is really impressing me as well, as his kind of tricks and skills and things, is he's bringing the best out of George Moncur as well. I think they have that kind of inbuilt relationship because they came through together at West Ham. They're quite similar players, technical, like to get on the ball and make things happen in the pockets of spaces. And they link up and dovetail really nicely down that left-hand side. Sometimes you'll see Moncur drift over to the left and Sadlier going to 10, but normally it's Moncur in a 10 and Sadlier out on the left. But what kind of speaks to how well Sadlier did on Tuesday and to an extent his first two games is that no one's, I mean, it's still a big miss, but no one's massively concerned about the fact that Paul Smith again is missing today, because Paul Smith, player of the season so far, but we haven't spoken about him yet, and people haven't been discussing where he's going to be. So it's a tough ask now for Paul Smith to get back in the team because of how well Sudley has played.
Some smart touches here, Jabbo. He got his assist, of course, is his first one in an Orient shirt, and his footwork is incredible. But do you maybe think we could even start seeing some more assists, some more goals? I know he hasn't played many games yet, but you expect it.
I mean, on that evidence and the way he played on Tuesday, man, if I was a striker, again, I'd be licking, well, I'm a striker, but if I was playing, I'd be licking my lips, because, I mean, his awareness, he drifts into great spaces, and he just does the right thing at the right time, and that pullback again for the goal was fantastic, and he's been whizzing some balls across the face of the goal, and then if you get that relationship with him, get that eye contact to make that near post run, you start getting some tap-ins, but he's looking really good.
And it's another game with that kind of the front three, or just behind the striker of George Moncur, Theo Archibald and Kieran Sadlier, and we saw it early doors in the season with Paul Smith, Theo and George, but if these three can get a run and start understanding each other's games even more, our player of the season, Paul Smith, might struggle to even get a look coming back into the team when he's fit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes such a difference when you've got all three of those behind the striker on form, because like you say, we saw it earlier in the season, when three of them click, all this team is geared towards is kind of making those three in behind the one striker, getting them chances, getting them into good positions. And when they're all on form, it's so much easier, because I think there was times in January where Paul Smith was injured, Moncur was a little bit out of form, and Theo was having to put a load of the burden on himself almost, and it was tough for him out there. But he's regained his form now, because he's got two players alongside him that are also having a bit of a say in the creative burden, which means Theo isn't having to do everything by himself, and that's what makes it so good in terms of teams can devise a game plan maybe to stop a Paul Smith or a Theo Archibald, but it's very difficult to get a game plan to stop all three, and all three will get moments at times because they're so hard to mark and deal with.
January was tough in a sense of chances created, shots hadn't, and then goals scored. But Richie was very vocal about that in his interview. So I'm sure on the training ground he was exactly the same. You get the feeling that these attackers are kind of chomping at the bit to really kind of score some goals, and they look incredibly up for it.
Yeah, they're looking hungry, and I thought Tuesday's game, which looked really threatening in attack, we really looked like we had a bit on Tuesday, and I think now players are coming back, the bench is looking strong. You've got some new players in the building, and I think that adds to the standards rise, because you want to play, and sometimes when you are playing regularly, and you're kind of one of the better players in the team that's performing, you can kind of just come off it a bit, and knowing that I'm kind of going to play because no one else is there. But now people are back. Players that are on form, and it's making everyone's standards rise again, and we're looking dangerous.
Certainly are, and just sitting behind them then would be Idris El Mazzouni and Craig Clay. Now, I think Craig Clay needs a special mention for his performance on Tuesday evening.
Yeah, he was excellent. It's probably the best I've seen of him all season. I think probably had some wrongs to right because of the fact he got sent off in the fixture, the FA Cup fixture at Crewe earlier in the season. But we put in a really good display alongside El Mazzouni, and on El Mazzouni as well. I thought he was excellent in there and kind of progressing with the ball, bringing it through midfield, and I think maybe that sending off against Stevenage, look, it wasn't ideal at the time, but just gave him a little bit of a break. Like I was saying with Kelman, so El Mazzouni's first full season in professional football, week in, week out playing, and it's tough on the legs, and sometimes you just need a little bit of a rest, need to take him out. I think Richie let him go back to Paris, which might have been a little bit of a masterstroke, because he's come back refreshed and looks like the El Mazzouni from earlier in the season, who was magnificent for us.
And it's a big call to leave his captain on the bench as well, especially in a game which he himself said was going to be such a tough physical battle.
Yeah, it's a big positive for Craig Clay in terms of how Richie views him, because Pratley has been unbelievable this season, and he's only found himself out for injury. And also Jordan Lydon's been good when he's played the last couple of games, but because of how well Craig Clay played against Crewe, and also to an extent how well he did when he came on against Wimbledon earlier in the last week, he's shown the faith. Richie's shown the faith and kept him in there, because he's reliable as they come. We all know what Craig Clay does, and that really speaks to the faith Richie has in him.
It was the 19th clean sheet on Tuesday evening, and it's an unchanged defence today, of course. And I think it was, even despite the clean sheet, they looked so assured. Even with the youngsters, Jaden Sweeney and Ed Turns in there, it was a really solid defensive display on Tuesday night, and it's going to need to be again today. Yeah,
need to be at it again today for sure. But it was nice to see, because I feel a lot of the good stuff that's happened this season has been built upon a solid back four. And obviously in January and stuff with injuries and losing a bit of rhythm, it's nice to see that rhythm, and I think that breeds the confidence for the players ahead of them. And you know, it's going to be a good test today. But again, Sweeney's done brilliantly. He offers something different in that fullback role. He likes to get forward, gives the opposition something to think about. And I feel that today is going to be a good test. But now they're showing the form that they've been showing. I think they'll be able to cope with it.
Sweeney looked really sprightly on Tuesday night, energetic and athletic, and he's improving every game he plays, which unfortunately for him isn't many games because of Rob Hunt and Tom Jones performing so well. But an opportunity for him today again to really kind of go out there and show Richie why he needs to be in the starting 11 week in, week out. Yeah,
definitely. I thought it was one of the best performances I've seen him in. And I thought, you know, he just offers something different. He's a threat. When he gets going, you see him just marauding down the touch line, and with so much guile. And I don't think the others do that as well. They're good in different ways, but he offers something different, and he's a threat. And you know, and every time he's called upon, he delivers. And as a younger player, in terms of not having that many appearances under his belt, I think he's proving every time that I'm dependable and reliable, and eventually you can trust me and I can become a starter here.
How tough is it when you're not getting the chances regularly to come in every kind of couple of months when an injury occurs and then perform like he does?
I mean, it's a credit to him and his mentality, because you know, often when you kind of know you might be second or third choice, and you know, the weekend comes, you're kind of not going to play, and you can just take your eye off the prize a bit and, you know, take a few liberties, not train with the same intensity, or kind of grumble a bit. But he seems to come in ready, itching each time. And it's a credit to him and his mentality, and it shows where he wants to go, and he wants to really be part of this team.
He certainly does, and it's been some impressive performances from Jayden Sweeney, and we very rarely lose when he starts. I'm going to touch the wood as I said that, but we caught up with him earlier this week to get his thoughts ahead of this weekend's game.
Off to Walsall this weekend, obviously a team you know very well, played them a lot over the last few seasons. One guy you could come up against needs to be Connor Wilkinson. Is that a battle you could potentially look forward to?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say I know his game inside out, but obviously I know Wilco. He's a very good player. I've got a wonderful left foot, but I think myself, us as a team, a back four, we can deal with any threat that they give us. And I think just as long as we stick to our game plan, we play our game, we can beat any team in this league. So we're looking forward to the game. We're trying to continue this momentum, carry the momentum from the last 2 games with us, and just go there, get the 3 points, and just keep it rolling.
It's an experienced front line. They've got Jamil Matt and Matty Stevens. Obviously, he went up with Forest Green last year, but for Leyton Orient, I think it's 19 clean sheets from 30. So, I mean, for us, really, I guess the plan is to try and keep those two quiet and maybe see out another 3 points.
No, 100%. Like you said, the clean sheets. It's an incredible record. Loz in goal. Easy, the best goalkeeper in the division. For me, Bex, probably the best centre-half I've ever played with. And yeah, the whole TJ, Honey, everyone who's played at the back edge, who's come in being different class. So I feel like us as a defensive unit can really deal with anything that opposition puts in front of us. But like you said, they've got experienced players, like quality operators, but it all depends on what happens on the day, and I think we're confident to come out on top.
Top stuff there from Jayden, and love is in the air, and not just for Jayden, it's because it's Valentine's Day coming up, and you lucky people can spend it with myself and Brendan here, as we will be bringing you every single second of Tuesday night's game against Rochdale right here on Orient Live. So you can either pick up your tickets or your match streaming pass for that one, so you can get behind the boys once more. And then of course next Saturday it's another home game against Crawley Town, and tickets are on sale for that one now as well. So make sure you head over to the website, pick up your tickets, and get yourself down to Brisbane Road and get behind the boys here in E10. And one more reminder, the most important game at the moment is today's game. And if you're watching along live on YouTube, international fans, you can pick up your streaming pass at the same websites you saw just then. And UK fans, you can listen along with Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock. But now let's take a look at how the home side will be lining up this afternoon. So Michael Flynn's side, we have in goal number 1, Owen Evans. We have number 2, Hayden White. Number 3, Liam Gordon. The captain, number 5, Donovan Daniels. Number 10, Tom Knowles. Number 14, Brandon Comley. Number 19, Jamil Matt. And number 20, Matty Stevens. A very dangerous strike partnership there. And number 23, Isaac Hutchinson. Number 24, Joe Lowe. And number 31, Robbie Wilmot. And on the bench for Walsall is Jackson Smith, Connor Wilkinson, Andy Williams, Jacob Maddox, Osin McEntee, Taylor Allen and Jan Songo. And of course a very dangerous Connor Wilkinson there on the bench, who's only recently returned from a long-term injury. Hopefully he won't come on and cause us any problems this afternoon. And a former club of yours here, Jabbo, and as we've already kind of touched on and Richie said, they're a big physical side and they'll be having their eyes on the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, those signings and that they've recently made just shows their intent, and they're trying to sort of like click to make a last-minute surge to get into those playoff places. So, you know, and the strike partnership there is formidable, so we've got to be on our money. But again, if we're at it and every man's on it today, I can't see us coming away with anything less than a win.
What kind of football are you expecting from a Michael Flynn side? He's gotten to a fair share of playoffs in his short career so far, and yeah, he knows this league very well.
Yeah, he's a very, very good manager for the level. I think he overachieved at times with that Newport side, getting him to the playoffs on a regular occasion, always having a good cup run. Likes to set up in a 3-5-2. It's normally big physical centre-backs, a target man with a striker running off them, and then midfielders that work hard and wing-backs that bomb on. So it's your standard League Two fare, but it works very effectively. And it's a blueprint that's working well for him this season. I think they had a little bit of a rocky start because I think they got taken over in the summer, and it was a little bit kind of trying to put a squad together, and they made a lot of signings and get them to gel. But now they've gelled, they've really hit form, especially at home. I think they've won 6 out of last 7 at home in the league and haven't lost at home since the 24th of September. So they're a really, really tough outfit to come up against today.
And they lost their star striker in Danny Johnson, a recognisable name to all Orient fans. He was his loan was ended and he went back to Mansfield, and they didn't let him come back to Walsall, but that didn't stop them in getting 2 more dangerous strikers in Jamil Matt and Matty Stevens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if they hit the ground running, then they can cause problems, but hopefully they don't click this afternoon. You know, Stevens coming off the back of a serious injury, so you know it takes a while to find his rhythm. But Matt knows this league very well. Got promoted, was instrumental in Forest Green's promotion, along with Stevens. They're gonna, if they start linking together today or throughout the remainder of the season, they're gonna cause teams problems. You know, Jamal occupies the defence very well, which allows space for other people to create movements and get goals, and he can assist very well also. So we've got to keep an eye on them. We've got to be on the money today to keep these 2 quiet.
You nervous about what you're seeing here, Brendan? It's not nice seeing this partnership being brought back to the league, especially in time for us to play them.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? But this is what, like I was saying about the investment they brought in with the new owners and the trust having Michael Flynn. That Michael Flynn's worked with Jamil Matt before at Newport, where he was so effective, but he's a striker that's been around League Two level for a long time now, and he seems to really find his best form at Forest Green. Probably couldn't make the step up at his age to League One, and they've decided to let him go. And then Matty Stevens, I think, is a real coup. I think he had really bad ACL injury and only just came back. And I think Forest Green kind of weren't willing to aid his recovery because they're in a relegation battle themselves, and kind of decides to let him back and go down to League Two, and to reunite that partnership down at League Two in the position Walsall are is a real coup for them.
And in terms of kind of form going into the game, and especially at the Bestcott Stadium, and how they've performed there so far, you imagine it'll be quite a evenly matched balance. On paper, this one could go either way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really tough test. You look at the table, and Walsall are kind of mid-table, and obviously we're top, and you think this could be a good day for us. But I think you can't underestimate Walsall. But saying that, they are beatable. They have been beaten recently by some of the better teams in the league in terms of Stockport and Salford, and they picked up draws with Tranmere and Northampton. So against the better sides in the league, they can struggle. They're not a side that will always beat the better teams. So there is a chance for us today. Obviously, we're top of the league. We've got to be confident. It is about us, but we still have to be wary of the threat Walsall can cause.
And of course, it's not just Jamil Matt and Matty Stevens who can cause them problems. They're new to this side, but as Brendan's been saying, they've been in great form. I think they're third in the form table, so that their position in the table is probably a little bit misleading.
Yeah, slightly. They've got another player, and Tom Knowles is really good, who drives with the ball, can really score, is prone to a good worldie as well. Was with him at Cambridge, and he's finding his feet this season. And like I said, they've added them to attack to boost their chances. But at the same time, we're top for a reason. And I think it's one of those games that one or two players can be off it. If everyone's on it, I see us winning. I just don't see anything different.
What way do you envisage this one will be going then today, Brendan?
I think it's going to be tight. I don't think we definitely don't concede a lot of goals. They don't score a lot of goals, so it could be a really tight affair. I think you're looking at set pieces could be key. Walsall have got the second most set piece goals in the league, whereas we can defend set pieces really well. We've conceded the least amount of set piece goals. I think it could be. I'll sit on the fence and go for a tight draw.
Well, don't get any splinters there, Brendan. Well, kick-off is very nearly upon us, so let's head up to the Midlands and join our match commentary team of Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Mascot Stadium, now known as the Poundland Stadium. The O's looking to secure a third straight league win and a third victory against the Saddlers. And we say, happy birthday to Matt Hiscock. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Dave. Looking forward to this one as always. And the chance for the O's to kick on once again after back-to-back wins. Think it'll be a very different game to the one we saw on Tuesday night at Gresty Road. Much more physical, and that is shown by the lineup that Vicky Flynn has put together this afternoon. Jamil Matt will be down the middle, alongside him Matty Stevens. Two really interesting acquisitions in January. 47 goals in total they got for Forest Green last season. Two very capable players in front of goal.
They certainly are. We've had a few technical difficulties here. It's not just us. BBC Final Score and BBC WN are having difficulties. I've even tried the Skybox. That isn't working. So we've got a red light. Normally we have a red and green. We're just operating on the one light, which